everybody. Welcome to the first Sunday of Advent. What an opportunity for us. What a joy. Advent means preparation, to prepare ourselves. We have these things called Advent candles that perhaps you've been a part of a tradition, maybe in your home or in your church or here at St. Andrew's, where we light one of these candles, and through the season, each Sunday before Christmas Eve, where we light that center candle that represents something about the coming of the Christ child. But Advent is way more than just preparing for a singular event in history. Advent is about preparing for an ongoing work of God that allows us to enter into the space that Advent represents. And we'll be talking about today, our first Advent candle, is that Advent doesn't begin in a manger in Bethlehem. Advent actually begins at the very beginning. In creation is where we learn that God had in mind his light to invade not only human history, but human hearts. And so that first light represents creation. If you are going to do an Advent wreath this Christmas, and I encourage you to do something like this, it's a great process where you take a week to just reflect on, and we've given you a tool to be able to do that. I'll talk about that in a little while. What does it mean that God has come in light? And how does that light actually shine in the darkness? How does that light shine in my darkness? So let us begin our Advent season reading from God's Word of his creation. And we're going to read just a few verses from Genesis chapter 1. Verses 1 to 5, and then John chapter 1, verses 1 to 5 and verse 9. And some may say that's in the New Testament. Why would we look at creation in the New Testament? Because John 1 actually also starts at the very beginning. So if you're able, I invite you to stand and receive what God has for us today. In the beginning, God created everything, the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And now go over to John chapter 1, first 5 verses. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all humanity. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Jump down to verse 9. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God indeed. Go ahead and have a seat. This idea of light is not just what shines in the dark. Light is the personification of who God is. It's his very character. We read it here in verses 3 and 4. Through him, this is the incarnate word, that capital I incarnate, God himself becoming flesh. Verse 3 and 4, through him all things were made. We get that from Colossians. Paul wrote a letter to people so they could understand who Jesus was when he walked the earth, but who he has been from all eternity, before eternity began. The second person of the Trinity, the fullness of God, the expression of God. The Father speaks, and the Son makes it happen, but even those words limit God. Because God is the creator of gender. He is above and beyond any category we place him in. And even our language is inadequate to describe what this incarnation actually means. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all humanity. Well, here's what happened. In the beginning, God first spoke, and he said, let there be light. And the Son put it into practice. There was light, and it was good, God declared. But then humanity pushed against that light and said, I am going to create my own light. And all of humanity from there pushed against that, turned our back on the light. But God wasn't through, because the light could not help but pour from him. And so for so many centuries, for thousands of years, all of creation groaned, living in that darkness as God prepared his way and shining his light. In fact, we read in Romans 8:20 and 22, for the creation was subjected to frustration. We know that the whole creation has been groaning, as in the pains of childbirth, right up to the present time. But notice that line, the pains of childbirth, because God knew that something was coming, and that something is light. And that something is someone. John 1:9, the true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. A man named Isaac Pennington was a farmer, a theologian, a pastor. He invented the yo-yo. One of those four things is not true. He said this in 1783, this light is above all gathered knowledge and above all descriptions whatsoever, for it is of the very nature of him from whom it flows. It is from nature, it is of the very nature of the one from whom it flows. Is that who is this one, the incarnate one? And you know, Christmas to us can so easily simply be about the event and all the trappings and history and traditions of the event, that it's moving through the songs and the presents, the family and the friends, for many of us the heartache, and also for many of us the joy. And yet, Advent is preparing ourselves for light. Is that God has for us. What does it mean to prepare our hearts? Well, that's the first thing, is we need to prepare our mind. Prepare our minds for the coming light, as Rick prayed. Not to try to figure out the incarnation or to try to contain it or to try to limit it to this young teenage girl who opened herself to the power of that light in response to the angel's message to her. But to go beyond that, that this light has come and the light shines in the darkness and continues to shine. What does it mean to prepare my mind for the coming of light in the world? What does it mean to prepare my mind for the coming of light in my heart? In the places where I experience darkness, where I know that there are nooks and crannies of my soul where I've shut the door to light, that I would open my expectations that God would shine his light in me, and in those places where I have become convinced I can make my own light or where I hide from light. The first step of preparation in Advent is to prepare my mind for this light, not just limited to that Christmas so long ago, but right now, here inside me. Do you expect the light? We may try to argue about what the incarnation is or to try to figure out what to expect. This is where Madeline Lingle, by the way, every time I quote somebody, I read either the whole book or most of it to make sure that what we're saying here is what the author intended. And we've been planning for a long time now, but we're going to do it, put on the website. Every book that I quote and every quote we have, we're going to put on the website. We haven't done it yet because I've been moving way too fast, our poor staff. But we're working on it. And Madeline, when I mention a book, that's one I recommend. Go for it. Madeline Lingle wrote this great book, Bright Evening Star. And in that book, she says this: don't try to explain the incarnation to me. Don't try to make it about the head. That's not what it means to prepare my mind. It is further from being explainable than the furthest star and the furthest galaxy. It is love. God's limitless love, and fleshing that love into the form of a human being, Jesus Christ, fully human and fully divine. What matters for us as we enter this Advent season is we watch for the light. We open ourselves to be expectant for the light to come, not just to the world, although that is crucial and important, and we should participate. We are called to enter into God's movement of light into the dark corners of the world, and we are the ones to lead that charge on his behalf. Yes, we participate in the work of the light to root out and dispel the darkness. But in Advent as well, open myself to expect that that light will penetrate me in such a way that I will be changed. So that's the first step. But if we stop there, that's where so often our faith in Christ, our trust in him, is limited to our head, to our mind, to expecting God to move, but almost standing back and not participating with that invasion of light in the places of our soul that need to be transformed. We all want to matter. We all want to make a difference. We all want to make an impact. But transformation through the light of the Holy Spirit, because Jesus Christ is the light and he has come, that precedes any impact that we ever can have. It's the beauty, it's the power, it's the mystery, it's the wonder of the light who is Christ that changes us on the inside if we are but open to it. That's what the preparation season of Advent is about. So it's more than just about my head knowledge and my trying to figure out the incarnation, but opening my mind to expecting that the light will change me. And that's why we need to move to preparing our hearts. That's what Advent's about, preparing our minds to expect the light. And also to prepare our hearts to expect new birth. Christmas is a knock on the door of our hearts. It's not where God just wants to get our attention and our minds. That just prepares the way of our expectation of God's movement. He's knocking on the door of our hearts, the seat of where we live. Our sense of feeling, our sense of wondering, our sense of wanting more, a sense of knowing that God has so much more to do in us to change us for his sake. Are you expectant for light as you move toward Christmas? Or are you planning the meals and the flights and the presents? And are you expecting new birth to take place inside of you? Jan Richardson is someone that Dee has recently allowed me to explore very much on the fringes. She's a brilliant writer, a beautiful artist, and an incredibly insightful person. She has written in one of her books, Night Visions. This is something that she has written and that she has drawn in her writing called, I forgot the actual name of this little section in the book Night Visions, but she says this: the season of Advent means there's something on the horizon, the likes of which we have never seen before. Do you see your faith that way, your life that way? That as we prepare ourselves for the Christmas event, do you see the season of Advent to recognize and remember that light is dawning, light is coming, and it's on the horizon. Something on the horizon, the likes of which we've never seen before. Are you expectant heading into this Christmas season for God to create new birth, new life inside of you? Is there something that you believe and hope for and long for that God will do inside of you? Here's what she says as she goes on. What is possible is to not see it, to miss it, to turn just as it brushes past you. And you begin to grasp what you missed, like Moses in the cleft of the rock, watching God's back fade in the distance. So stay, sit, linger, tarry, ponder, wait, behold, wonder. There will be time enough for running, for rushing, for worrying, for pushing. But for now, stay. Wait. Something's on the horizon. What if this Christmas season, we not only expect light to break through the places of darkness inside of us, to reveal things to us we weren't aware of, but to bring a new energy, a new hope, a new power, a new presence because of Christ coming to us as we prepare for the Christmas season. But what if we open our hearts to believe that there's a new birth coming? Some of us have been followers of Christ for a while, and we know the language and the lingo when we talk about this thing called the new birth. And maybe we've been labeled as a Christian. We use that word to describe ourselves, and we said, I have been born again because I've trusted Christ. But we act as if it's like those Christmas celebrations and holiday traditions where it's a one-time event in our past, that we received the Christ child once and we're born again and we're done and we move on. And yet the new birth is a constant and continual arrival of Christ. Advent is preparing our hearts to be open to receiving him in a new way. That's what's on the horizon. Christ is coming to renew me. Christ is coming to renew you. Christ is coming to be born in you is what we celebrate, and in me and in us. And if we would but open ourselves to his light, to his life, to his presence, to his power, to his mercy, to his forgiveness, to his mind, to his heart, he changes us from the inside out. And then it is not we that make the impact, but he living within us changes us so he makes the impact in the world that he longs to touch. Loretta Ross Gotta, in a book, Letters from the Holy Ground, said this: the intensity and strain that many of us bring to Christmas must suggest to some onlookers that on the whole, Christians do not seem to have gotten the point of it. Probably few of us have the faith or the nerve to tamper with hallowed Christmas traditions on a larger scale or with other holiday celebrations. But a small experiment might prove interesting. I love that line. That's what grabbed me. Yeah, we're not talking about having to do a wholesale shift of how we celebrate Christmas. No. Celebrate, sing, have parties, enjoy, love, give. But what about an experiment in opening ourselves up to the power and beauty of the Spirit of God as Christ comes with light and with new birth inside of us? We kind of, at St. Andrews, we can kind of get into doing a little experiment, right? You guys have shown that. So she goes on to say, what if instead of doing something, we were to be something special? Be a womb. Be a dwelling for God. Be surprised. Now, maybe about half of you, based on, you'll figure this out in a second, maybe the idea of be a womb, yay, we're going, a little weird, okay? Maybe half of you are saying, finally, we're talking about a part of anatomy, a metaphor, an idea that resonates more with me. That's about half of us. And about half of us go, oh, that might make you feel a little uncomfortable. I need to be a womb? What does it mean for me to be a womb so God can be born in me? It's not weird at all. God is the creator of this beautiful mystery of Mary's womb, where the angel came and revealed to her the power of God as light was coming into the world to shine on all through the wonder of this tender encounter that caused great change in her body, great pain to the process, and great joy to the world. What if we were a womb for him? And you know, it's biblical. In that same book of Colossians, the Apostle Paul writes this: God has chosen to make known among the Gentiles the glorious riches of his mystery, which is ready Christ in you, the hope of glory. That's Advent. Advent is God making his birth inside of you and me who long to know him and trust him. It is opening ourselves to the power of the light and to receiving the gift of the child being born inside of us, who changes us and lives through us for his purposes in the world. That's what Advent is. Advent is the time to be a womb, to be a receiver of the one who has come into the world and continues to come into the world. We've actually offered, starting today, if you're on our website, if you're on our mailing list, you got an email this morning at 4-something a.m. I don't know if you saw it yet, but if you're not on our website or you're not on our email list, please give us your information out there in the What's Next table just outside the door. And we're going to send this to you. It's an Advent calendar, Advent devotional, Watch for the Light, that we're going through as a community. And what's really fun about it is one of our St. Andrew's Leadership Institute associates, Lily Davis, who's actually here. She's written this. Lily, thank you so much. Wave so they know who you are. Graduate of Gordon Conwell Seminary, and just has given us this beautiful gift. If you just are not used to computers and you don't like reading stuff on, we can find a way to get you a paper copy of these. Just let us know. But this is a way for us to take Advent seriously by preparing our minds, expecting the light to shine not only on us but in us and through us, and to prepare our hearts to receive him. What a beautiful opportunity it is for us to make the creative space for Christ to come in and change us.